I'm Corraine and welcome back to my channel at Corraine Choo Realty. Today's episode is a very important one because I want to address one question that many buyers and investors have been debating all this while. Is resale really better or is new launch really more lucrative? By now, I'm sure you have seen many different opinions online. Some will tell you, buy resale now, rent it out, collect rental, yay to passive income. While others will tell you, buy new launch, confirm make money. New launch always appreciates better than resale. But here's the truth, buying a property is never that simple. The videos you're watching, are they saying it just for the views or are they saying it for your interests? Majority of them are giving you blanket statements without looking at your age, your income, CPF, loan, objective, holding period, rental income tax, property tax, renovation costs, interest costs, and exit strategy. Because what works for one family may not work for another. For today, let's put our own opinions aside. I want to dissect the numbers together with you. Because it's not so simple as just looking at the rental you receive every month. It is about how much you actually retain after accounting for all the expenses. And it is not simply about whether the property appreciates in value. It is about whether that appreciation sufficiently offsets your costs, risk, opportunity cost, holding period, and exit. So in today's episode, we are tackling the classic age-old property debate, resale versus new launch. Which one actually makes more sense for your property goals? Before we continue, if you enjoy this kind of in-depth property content, do like, share, and subscribe to my channel at Corraine Choo Realty. It really motivates me to continue producing more videos like this, where I break down the current market with real numbers, real statistics, real data, and real examples, and a practical perspective from the ground. And of course, if you're unsure whether you should buy resale, new launch, hold, sell, upgrade, or to restructure your property portfolio, you can always reach out to me for a one-to-one consultation at 88-826-826. My role is to help you connect the dots between the market, your numbers, and your personal situation, so that you can make a decision with confidence and clarity.
Before we begin, a quick disclaimer. This video is for educational purposes only. It is solely based on my own opinion and my analysis. Please always do your own research and due diligence before making any decisions. If you're liking the content so far, please do hit the like and subscribe button, as your simple gesture will keep me motivated to post more content like this. At the side is my social handles. If you like a personalized guidance tailored to your own circumstances, you can always scan the QR code to get in touch with me for a one-to-one consultation. Now, let's dive right back into the video.
So let's first talk about the reality of what's actually happening on the ground right now. I'm actively planting my boots on the ground, managing listings and talking to buyers and sellers all at the same time. I get to see the actual inquiry patterns behind the scenes. If I'm being completely straightforward and honest with you, the current resale market is really sluggish right now. Now, I know what you are thinking. Some people will say, but Corraine, properties are still selling. I agree with you. You're not wrong. The properties are still selling, but only in very specific segments. A huge mistake I see people make is hearing one wild success story about how a unit is sold at record high prices or another unit was sold off at record speed and automatically assume the entire market is red hot. Sorry to break it to you, but not all resale properties are created equal. The market simply does not operate in that way. Let me explain. If you look at older resale developments, specifically developments that TOP 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or even some of the older ECs, these properties are still moving in this current slower resale market. Why? Why do these properties continue to attract buyers? Because they fulfill a genuine market need. They solve a practical problem that many families face, finding a home that offers both space and affordability. Consider a family with a budget of around $1.6 million to $1.8 million, looking for a spacious 3-bedroom home of approximately 1,300 square feet. Where can the buyers realistically find a home with such characteristics today? The reality is that new launches rarely offer that combination of size and price anymore. Within the $1.45 million to $1.8 million range, buyers can still find resale units of at least 1,300 square feet with around 70 years of lease remaining. In contrast, the same budget in today's new launch market would likely only secure a 2-bedroom unit. For families who prioritize living space and value for money, these larger resale homes remain a compelling option with no comparable substitutes in today's market. If you are currently exploring homes with these specific characteristics and would like to know which developments I believe offer the best value, feel free to reach out to me, Corraine, at 88-826-826. I'll be happy to share my top picks and help you identify options that align with both your budget and needs. Naturally, these older but bigger projects are always going to have a captive audience as they serve a clear and practical need. The demand is always there, which is why they are always getting snapped up. But now, let's pivot and contrast that with a completely different segment, the newer resale condos that just TOP in the last 3 to 5 years. Here's where things become more interesting. Projects like Park Colonial, Ule Residences, Riverfront Residences, Treasure at Tampines, Avenue South Residences, Sterling Residences. These are the ones feeling the squeeze right now. They're essentially trapped in a transition period by the government's policy shift, GFA harmonization. If you have been following my channel, you already know what exactly am I talking about. But if you're new, here's the TLDR version. When the government rolled out GFA harmonization, it threw a massive curveball at the developers. Suddenly, they had a huge question mark over their heads. They had no idea if buyers would be able to accept these new, tighter, but supposedly more efficient layouts. No more void spaces available. Will buyers reject certain configurations? How should the units be designed? And because of this uncertainty, developers pull back. They started bidding more conservatively. And what happens when developers get cautious? Land prices start coming down. And here's the opportunity. So, because land prices drop, developers were able to price their new launches super competitively. This created a dynamic for buyers when new launches prices were almost identical to newer resale condos. Just think about it from a buyer's perspective. If you have the option to choose between a resale 3-bedroom unit or a new launch 3-bedroom unit at the same price point. But the new launch is able to give you a more efficient layout, zero renovation headaches, progressive payment over the next few years, and potentially at a better location with a fresher lease. Which one will you go for? The answer is pretty obvious. So as you can see from here, for the 1-bedroom, both projects started at $1.24 million. For 2 bedrooms, also pretty close. Tembusu Grand starts at $1.55 million versus EOK at $1.58 million. For the 3 bedrooms, Tembusu Grand starts from $2.28 million versus EOK at $2.16 million. For the 4 bedrooms, Tembusu Grand starts at $3.288 million versus EOK at $2.749 million. And for the 5 bedrooms, Tembusu Grand starts from $4.028 million versus EOK at $3.59 million. This is exactly the reason why the resale condo segment is under so much pressure right now. They aren't just fighting other resale properties anymore. This is a completely different ballgame. Alright, let's tackle the elephant in the room, the rental argument. I hear this all the time. Corraine, a resale unit is able to give me immediate rental income. But here is a critical mistake people miss. They confuse gross rental income with actual net profit from the renter. Let's play around with some numbers. Say your unit is able to rent out for $5,000 a month. On paper, $60,000 a year looks fantastic, but let's break it down a little. Say for example, your unit is able to rent out for $5,000 a month. At $5,000 rental, assuming a 3.5% rental year, which is already pretty good. Those who know will know usually we want to hit at least 3% in rental yield. This is the baseline if you tell me you want to buy a property in Singapore and then rent it out. And anything 4% or above is actually considered very good already. This scenario is based on if you rent out the whole entire unit to a single tenant family profile, not those doing up partitions, splitting into different rooms, then renting out to 6 to 8 different people and making it into a co-living environment. Well, of course, you can do that, but the calculations would be very different already. That's another topic for another day. Coming back, at 3.5% rental yield, your property price is about $1.7 million to $1.8 million. How much of the $60,000 rental do you actually keep?
Once you deduct property tax, $10,800, condo maintenance fee, $350 multiplied by 12 equals to $4,200 per year. Mortgage interest at 2%, amounting to $2,250 multiplied by 12 equals to $27,000 per year. Agent commission for 1-year rental is $2,500. Income tax on the renter, $16,050 multiplied by 20% equals to $3,210. Total balance equals to $12,290 for a year.
Okay? Don't forget, this is the most ideal scenario. What if the interest rates increase to 3%? Then instead of $27,000, we are looking at $3,375 in interest payment to the bank alone per month, multiplied by 12 equals to $40,500 payment just in interest alone. This is a $13,500 difference from a 2% interest rate to a 3% interest rate. Then what about those occasional vacancy periods where you need to look for a new tenant? If you take 2 months to find the next tenant, there is $10,000 less rental that you'll be collecting. But will the mortgage and maintenance fees wait for you? Not to mention about the minor repairs, replacing a broken fridge, aircon repair, washing machine breakdown, or general wear and tear. How much of that $60,000 are you actually keeping? So many landlords have this mindset of, my tenant is paying my mortgage. While it is true to a certain extent that you won't lose in interest, but in reality, that rental money is often just subsidizing the cost of holding the property. That's basically a zero-sum game. I've literally had clients who thought that they were cashing in on their rental income, only to realize that the real returns were nowhere near what they imagined after I calculate their net figures. Ultimately, am I right to say we still have to rely on some form of capital appreciation in order to make money from property? Look, let me pause right here and clarify something. I am not against resale, not at all. Resale is great when it serves a purpose. If you need a place to live in right now, if you are trying to get within a specific school radius, or if you just need a layout that fits your growing family lifestyle today without waiting 3 to 4 years, resale makes total sense. But if you sit down with me and you say your primary goal is investment, well, that changes the conversation entirely. Because at that point, we are no longer asking if a resale unit is a decent buy. We have to crunch the numbers and ask which asset is actually going to deliver the best risk to reward ratio. And that itself is a totally different analysis. Now, I know someone out there watching this is probably going to be thinking, the theory sounds about right, but is it real or not? Where's the proof? Let's take a look at how resale is actually performing on the ground in today's market. I'm deliberately picking major, well-known developments. No cherry picking or one-off outlier transactions. We need to take a look at what normal buyers are actually buying. Let's start off with Woodley Residences. It's a beautiful integrated project in a highly desirable location. It should be a gold mine. The appreciation is actually far more modest than what people would expect. Then you move on to projects like Park Colonial or Sterling Residences. Great facilities, excellent city fringe appeal, strong positioning, and super popular with buyers. The growth is respectable, but it is not explosive. You see this exact same pattern ripple across Avenue South Residences, Riverfront Residences, and Treasure at Tampines. Across the board, we are no longer seeing those crazy 10% or 15% double-digit confirm what returns. We are mostly looking at annualized numbers hovering in the single digits range, and this is the most critical point of this whole entire video. If your property is only appreciating modestly, but your holding costs, maintenance fees, property tax, mortgage, and interest are high, what is your true return? Gross and net returns are two completely different metrics, and not being able to distinguish between the two is exactly where most buyers get burned. Now, let's flip the script and look at new launches, and let me put a massive disclaimer right here. I'm not saying you should go out and just buy any new launch. There are overpriced projects, terrible layouts, and completely wrong entry prices. Telling you that every new launch makes money would be incredibly irresponsible of me. But when you pick the right project and the right unit at the right entry price, the dynamics are completely different. And it comes down to one word: consistency. Think about the psychology of a resale buyer. When they walk into a 10-year-old unit, what would they be thinking? How much is this renovation going to cost me? Are there hidden repairs? Are the pipes leaking? Why did the unit on the higher floor sold for less? Was it in the original condition? There are so many moving parts, and that uncertainty makes buyers cautious. Do cautious buyers give record-breaking offers? Compare that to a new launch. Stack 08 versus Stack 08. Same project, same developer, same layout. The only difference is the floor level of Stack 08 versus Stack 10. Same layout, same floor. The only difference is the view. It's almost a direct price comparison because the unit prices are consistent, transparent, and incredibly easy to benchmark and compare against. Higher floors of the same stacks are generally priced higher, maybe even with some price loading jump above certain floor levels. You know how much your neighbors are entering at. You can decide if the price difference is justified for you to get the higher floor unit, or should you just go for the cheaper lower floor unit. Buyers feel more confident and safe, which leads to much easier and smoother transactions. But the advantage isn't just about the unit pricing, it's also about the financial structure. With a new launch, your capital is deployed progressively. You don't have to bear the immediate burden of a full mortgage. Your mortgage scales up slowly and progressively. At the same time, there are zero tenant issues, zero maintenance fees, no property taxes during construction, and absolutely no surprise renovation costs. So while resale can collect immediate rental income, but you need to fully pay the upfront cost and the full mortgage installment. While for the new launch, it is still under construction and you're still waiting for keys, so it's under the progressive payments. No property tax, no maintenance fees, and zero tenant headaches. People get too obsessed with capital appreciation that many overlook the actual cost of holding a property. In property investing, more expenses equal more risk. It's that simple. Now, put on your investor hat. As an investor, would you prefer to hold on to a property that you have to service a full mortgage with a higher holding cost? property tax, maintenance fee, and a high bank interest on a fully dispersed loan? Or will you go for a property that offers progressive mortgage with a clear and predictable entry pricing strategy with little holding costs, no property tax, no maintenance fee, and the financing costs are lower during the construction period, as buyers only service interest on the progressively dispersed loan amount? I know some of you will ask, fine, but what about my own stay needs versus progressive payment debate? I think this part is important too. Now let's tackle one of the biggest misconceptions in today's market, and this is where many buyers get psychologically stuck. They will say, Corraine, if I buy a new launch, I still need to rent somewhere while waiting. So doesn't that mean I'm losing money for renter and at the same time I'm still paying for the new launch property? This statement is not entirely accurate. The real difference is in the financial commitment between buying a resale property and a new launch property. In other words, your holding power, where cash flow becomes an issue. When you buy a resale unit, your full mortgage starts the moment you complete the purchase. There is no transition period. You are hit with the maximum monthly installment from day one, with the seller's stamp duty still locking you up for at least another 4 years. Compare that to a new launch. Because of the progressive payment scheme, your loan is only dispersed in stages as the project is constructed. You're only paying interest on the amount that has actually been dispersed. While the clock for your SSD is already ticking the moment you book a unit, then people will still say, rental is still an expense. Correct, I do agree. Let's analyze rationally. If you buy a resale, you aren't only paying for the mortgage. There are also maintenance fees, property tax, renovation costs, and potential repair bills for an aging asset. These are also expenses, hidden ownership costs. They are just less emotionally obvious than paying for rental. What happens when interest rates spike? What if the market sentiment slows down? Who will feel the pain immediately? Is it a resale buyer or is it a new launch buyer? When the market is bad, if you were just renting, can you adjust and rent a HDB or a smaller condo instead to manage your expenses for this period of time? But if you're a resale owner and interest rates increase, can you just take a pause on your mortgage? Of course, the resale owner feels the cash flow pressure immediately. The new launch buyer scales his commitment slowly, and many will have even tied through the period of higher interest as construction progresses, giving him breathing room and financial flexibility. Let's take a look at a very simple scenario to put this into perspective. Imagine two investors with the exact same budget, both buying a $2.5 million property. Investor A goes for a resale unit. Once the deal completes, he starts to pay for the full mortgage, maintenance fees, and property tax. On top of that, he has to absorb any upfront cost of renovation, the risk of unexpected repairs, and the hassle of managing tenants. Investor B goes for a new launch. Because of the progressive payment scheme, their financial exposure is not immediate. On top of that, there are no maintenance fee, no property tax, and no renovation bills. Their initial cost structure is just much more cleaner and far more predictable. So ask yourself honestly, who has the easier path to breaking even? That is the real question. Before you can even think about making a profit in real estate, you first have to survive the holding cost efficiently. Finally, let's address one of the biggest misconceptions that always spark debate. Should you go direct as a buyer to save money, or use a buyer's agent for a resale unit? The narrative that going directly guarantees a discount is completely flawed. As a seller, what do you care about? If a direct buyer lowballs your unit versus a represented buyer who offers you around the market price, are you going to choose a direct buyer because he's unrepresented? A seller only cares about price, terms, and certainty. They aren't going to give you a discount just because you're unrepresented. So when buyers tell me, Corraine, if I go direct, maybe I can negotiate a better deal, I always ask them, based on what? More importantly, if you go directly for the purchase, you're negotiating against a seller's agent. Whose interest is that agent legally and professionally obligated to protect? You as a direct buyer or the sellers? Now, let me be very candid right here. They are excellent agents, and they're also black sheep agents in this industry. If you're working with an agent who only cares about commission, who pushes product without understanding your needs and your goals, who treats you like a transaction, then yes, that is going to be a problem. That's why going direct feels better, because direct buyers think they're getting a better deal by negotiating directly with the seller's agent. I understand that. But the issue is not with agents. The issue is with the wrong agent. I suggest that you interview and speak to the agent to find out more and understand how he or she can value add to you. Today, everyone has a smartphone, and it is so easy to just go online and search listings and arrange for viewings yourself. I believe that the true value of a buyer's agent has also evolved, and it is not limited to just arranging for viewings. Because a good buyer's agent protects you in ways you may not even realize. Let's say you saw a unit you really like, then suddenly all your decision making becomes emotional. Who will be the one grounded to objectively bring you back to your most important making decision? Who checks and cautions you if you're overpaying? Who who helps to structure the negotiation for a better deal, who helps you to identify hidden risk, who asks questions you may not even think to ask. That is where the real value and experience of a realtor lies. Because buying property is not the same as buying a handbag or a car. It is one of the biggest financial decisions of your life. And when emotions run high, any mistake becomes expensive. That's why representation matters. Now, of course, let me also say this honestly. Not every buyer needs an agent. Some are highly experienced, highly analytical, very comfortable in negotiating, understands valuation, understands legal risk, understands product positioning. Fine. But what about the majority of us who don't deal with property transactions on a frequent basis? Isn't it incredibly risky, especially for first-time buyers, to read a few forum threads, watch a couple of online videos, and then decide to navigate a multi-million-dollar purchase entirely on their own? Or you watch an online video about surgery and then go ahead to try and operate on yourself? The stakes are just too high. And that brings me to the most important takeaway of this entire video. Please do not consume property content as entertainment. Social media algorithms thrive on controversial and oversimplified statements like resale is always better, new launch confirm make money, or dealing directly without a buyer's agent is better. Skip the buyer's agent to save money or save the buyer's agent to get a better deal. But real estate is not so direct, where everything is either black or white. Because the truth is, the right answer completely depends on your personal objectives, financial situation, timeline, and family needs, which are unique to you and you yourself only. And once your objective is clear, the strategy becomes obvious. If you have watched this entire episode until now, I hope one thing is clear. I'm not here to force you into buying a resale, and I'm not here to force you into buying a new launch. If you have found the breakdown valuable, please do me a favor, hit the like button, share the video, and subscribe to my channel at Corraine Choo Realty. It generally helps with the algorithm, and it motivates me to keep producing deep, honest, real estate content instead of rage bait or clickbait content. For those of you who are currently at a crossroad, feeling stuck, wondering if you should buy, hold, upgrade, restructure your property portfolio, or simply to cash out on your sales proceeds, contact me Corraine at 88-826-826 for a proper one-to-one discussion. I will map out a strategy tailored specifically to your numbers, your goals, and your timeline. Once again, I'm Corraine, your trusted real estate advisor, helping you navigate every property move with confidence and clarity. This is Corraine Choo Realty signing off. Clarity, strategy, results. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!